welcome to C Programming Tutorials. In today's tutorial we are going to learn about function arguments. So how to define the arguments of a function and how to pass values to a function. So before we start, as usual, I would really appreciate if you haven't subscribed to this channel, Learnorama. I would appreciate if you subscribe to this channel, and if you haven't, or if you would like to become a fan of the page Awesome C Programming Tutorials in High Def on Facebook, you could do that also. And I would appreciate if you could give me any feedback or comments or something. That would be appreciated also. And if you like these tutorials, please click on the like link on Facebook, or click on the thumbs up button on this tutorial. Thank you so much. So let's get started. So we were talking about function, and in our previous tutorial we basically defined a function which did not take any arguments, okay, and all it did was basically print a couple of messages. So it was a pretty simple straightforward function, just to demonstrate what a function is and how it's declared and stuff. But in today's tutorial we are going to define another function which basically will take some arguments, okay. And what were the arguments? As we saw before, we basically the way we define a function is the return type, then the name of the function, whatever the name you would like to give it, and then parentheses, and then list of arguments. So you can have multiple arguments defined in the function, and this is how your function should look like, okay. So what are we gonna do here? Let's take for as an example again a very simple function. What it's gonna do is, let's say we write a function that will add two numbers, okay. Very simple, okay. It will add two numbers. So if you think about it, if suppose you always think of function as yourself. So suppose if I am the function that can add two numbers, so what would I need? Ask this question: what would I need to do my job? My job is to basically add two numbers, okay. So what would I need to basically add two numbers? I would need two numbers, right? So I need two numbers as input, and I'll add them and I'll do something. Whatever I have to do, I will do with those numbers, right? So input arguments are basically like input to the function. So in this particular example, if you want to write a function that will add two numbers, we will have to basically pass the numbers as the arguments to the function, and this is how you do it, okay. So again, so far, first thing you want to do is return type, and we're not going to worry about return type. We'll just say void here, okay. In the next tutorial, we will see what the return type means, or what it does, okay. And then we have to name this function. I always name the function. You can name anything you want. You can name it ABC if you want to, but always name the function for what it does. So okay, what does it do? In our case, it adds two numbers, right? So let's call it add, okay. Add. Or you could call add two numbers if you want. You could call this too, add two numbers. Let's call it add for short. Keep them short, but not too short. Short enough to explain what they're supposed to do, and not too short that you cannot even understand what they are supposed to do. Okay, and then followed by the list of arguments. So this is where our arguments list are gonna go. And as we saw that here in this case, in this particular example, the function is supposed to take two numbers, okay. In other words, two integers, okay. So how do you define that? Just like we have been declaring variables in here, like int a and int b, right? We have been doing this just the same way, okay. Just the same way you basically declared the arguments, and this is what you do: int a, comma, these have to be separated by comma, int b, okay. A and b are two numbers that whoever is going to call will have to provide to this function. Whoever is going to call will have to provide this function, and then this function will be adding those numbers. Now let's leave it here, okay. And what we are going to do here is basically call this function. So this information, I'm just trying to demonstrate here that this information is more than enough for you to be able to call this function. Okay, this information, this says that this is the function add, which by name it says that it's going to add two numbers, and this is what it's going to do. It's going to basically add this number and this number, whatever we pass. Now these are like dummy parameters. Okay, these are like dummy variables. Okay, the caller has to provide the actual values of these variables. So let's say int a is equal to 2 and b is equal to 3. Suppose we define it this way. Okay, then we could call add a comma b. See this? So a and b, we pass these two variables right here. Okay, the values of these two variables right here. Okay, so the value of a was 2, so 2 goes here. The value of b was 3. Because of this call, when this function is going to execute, the value of a is going to be 2. The value of this argument b is going to be 3. Now here it so happens that these variables have the same name as these variables. This is not necessary. So in other words, I could have int x equal to 10, int y is equal to 20. Okay, and then I could call add x comma y. Okay, this is perfectly fine as long as the first parameter has the same type as the type declared in this first argument, and the second parameter has the same type as it is declared in the second argument. This is a perfect call. That's all compiler wants to know. Okay, so what's going to happen? It's going to call this function with the value of 10. So a will become 10. Okay, let me bring up my pen here. So once this is called in this example, the value of a will be 10. Why? Because the value of x is 10. So whatever the value of x is, that's going to be passed, not the variable itself. So the value of x is 10. 10 will be passed, and the value of a will become 10. And the value of y is 20. So 20 will be passed here. So the value of b will become 20. Okay. So now is the time to basically define as to how to add these numbers. Okay, and what this function is going to do is to add these two numbers. Okay, so you can define your variables here. Int result. Okay, result is equal to a plus b. This statement will add a and b, whatever the values are, and put it in result. And then let's print out this result. The sum of %d, the first number, and %d, the second argument, is %d, the result. Okay, and let's pass the values here. For this %d, we want to print the value of a. Okay, for this %d, we want to print the value of b. And what will be the value of a and b? Whatever this function would be called from. So these are dummy variables. We don't know at this point what the value of a and b is. But whatever the value of a and b is, you just add these two together, get the result, and you just print this. So this is what we said in this function. Okay, and then here is where we basically call this function. Okay, multiple times with different variables. So let's execute it. Press F9. Oops, again I did it again. This is not a valid C syntax. This was just showing the syntax. So I run F9, it runs this function, and look at this. What did it do? First thing we called was add a b. The value of a was 2, the value of b was 3. So it said the sum of 2 and 3 is 5. Okay, second thing we call was add xy. Okay, and it came here. The value of x was 10, the value of y was 20, a becomes 10, b becomes 20, a plus b with 10 plus 20 is 30, and then it displays this message, the sum of 10 and 20 is 30. Thank you very much. Keep watching these tutorials. Thank you so much.